Gibbon and I had decided one year that, heck, let's go find out really what the story is with J. French banjo. So we spent a lot of time in the library in Cleveland and the Historic Society to find out the history. And we found out that J. Lafayette French built banjos from about 1878, I think, to about 1900. And the example I brought with me is from about 1880. So it's a fretless banjo. Originally it was gut strung. We use nylon strings now because gut is so expensive. It's a beautiful instrument, nicely proportioned. I think it's a walnut neck with a ebony fretless fingerboard. And an interesting detail is on the sides, there's dots, so you know where to put your fingers. I can't really say they're in the right place, but it's a good place to start. I honestly don't remember where I got this one. Oh well. The guitar that Carl's playing is a Chicago-made. The only name on it, it says Stan, which I think was an abbreviation for standard. And it's a Brazilian rosewood back and side, spruce top. Just a beautiful parlor guitar. I think it's from the 1890s. I've seen 3 others just like it that had different distributors' labels. Like the Wurlitzer Company was a major musical instrument distributor when this was brand new. I remember getting that guitar. In Cleveland, my father and I had a music store called Gooseacres, and I remember the fellow who owned that guitar, I remember watching him take it out of his trunk and bring it into the store. And he gave it to us because he had no interest in it. He sold us a few other instruments, but he gave us this parlor guitar. So we'll make a little music with these 2 1800 instruments. We'll do Wild Bill Jones. We brought lots of interesting goodies. One of my faves that I picked up in Cleveland years ago is that's just a banjo. Is a cigar box fiddle. So when I bought this in 1983, the estate executor brought this into the store, Gooseacres, and told me the history that it had belonged to a 80-year-old man who was going to a nursing home, and his father was a professional violin maker and had made this for him when he years old. And it's a cigar box body and a beautifully made oak neck. Even the end pin is just gorgeous, a little square button. And inside there's a sound post and a bass bar like you find on normal fiddles. The pegs are slightly crude yet professionally fit, so it even stays in tune. More or less, yeah. We'll give it a quick tweak. And this is I don't know, what do we call this? Like the corner segment of our program, because this old Craftsman guitar is a guitar that my mother found at a guitar show in the 90s, and it's the brand is Old Craftsman. It was made by Kay for the Spiegel catalog. And it was their diamond anniversary edition in 1940. So the Spiegel catalog had been around for 50 years at the time, and they put this one out as the guitar of the future.
They needed a better crystal ball, because I don't think it caught on.
No, I don't think it caught on.
It's not exactly comfortable in any way.
Yeah.
Even to add to the just awkwardness, it's got these
the metal bumpers.
Yeah, the bumpers, which is an extra thing to dig into your thigh. But I mean, it's undeniably.
Yeah, undeniably cool.
Yeah, there you go. See if it fared any better.
Yes.
That'll work.
There we go.
We spent 20 minutes tuning all this stuff beforehand, and we'll see how.
Yeah. The humidity is way different than my house in Graceland Mansion. All right, let's see how much I can get out of basically a half-size fiddle, cigar box fiddle. All right, let's try Love Somebody. Yeah, not tonal perfection by any means, but really
We're not comfortable by any means.
A guy who always sent emails to me saying, "Hey, this is crazy old Leo coming to bug you again," and he had the neck and all the metal hardware for years. The wood rim had rotted, so we had to make a new one. But he had it for years and just decided he knew that I needed to own it. Works for me. I was particularly taken with this, the graceful headstock of like a swan is what it reminds me of. When it came to the shop, currently it's fretless, but when it came to the shop, somebody had put frets in the fingerboard and put them in the wrong place. So there was no sense in putting, stringing it up and playing it because it was going to play out of tune. So little did we know that incompetence did us a favor. Because when we took the fingerboard off, underneath, written in pencil on the neck, said Jacob F. Nolsch, Albany, New York. Let's see, my notes say, nope, I forgot to write down. I think it's 1883. Yeah, 1883. And so, how cool. Finally, we have some provenance on an unknown banjo. So, a few years go by, and my wife Mary and I make a trip up to Albany, and I spend an afternoon in the library, including dealing with a fire alarm that went off, and everybody had to leave. But I go through all the city directories, and I find lots of interesting facts about Albany banjos from the 1800s, but there is no Jacob Nolsch. There's no Nolsches at all listed in Albany. That was pretty disappointing, but maybe he just hung out at one of the banjo shops that was in Albany. So I'll play a tune called Laurel Branch. One of the instruments that came into the shop, into Goose Acres, the National. Yeah, pull that out.
Guess I'm playing this.
Yeah, that's what you get to demonstrate that one. The National guitars are fairly renowned. The bodies are made out of metal, and the interior sound amplification device is a cone, an inverted cone that looks a lot like a speaker. And it's underneath the cover plate. But they were invented in the late 20s to have a guitar that was louder than a standard wood body acoustic guitar, and it worked quite well. So this is one that came into Goose Acres, uh, probably, I think around 1978 or 79. And when I was doing the work to it, you know, it had a cracked peg head here that I repaired, and then also needed the neck alignment taken care of. Taken apart, and I'm smelling something really funny. I just didn't, it's like, what's wrong with this guitar? And as I cleaned it out, I found 2 marijuana roaches inside. Yeah, you know, somebody, it just goes to show it had a lot of fun in its time.
Yeah, I play a tenor on Cincinnati Flow Rag, I think, the Reverend Gary Davis tune. I learned it the traditional way from the internet.
All right. Well, one of my family heirloom banjo I brought with me is this AC Fairbanks Regent. My uncle Peter found this in the bar across the street from my grandmother's taxi stand in Newton Center, Massachusetts. My grandmother owned, Alice Wilson, she owned the Holden Taxi Company, and it was a great location. It was right at the trolley station, so it was a great location. She always had great business, great drivers, but they didn't have a bathroom. So in order for anybody to get to use a bathroom, they had to walk across the street to the bar, which the bar owner was really cool with that. And in the early 60s, 1960s, my Uncle Peter goes in there, and he sees this banjo sitting in the corner and says, hey Charlie, what's that banjo doing there? And the bartender says, oh, somebody used it to pay a bar tab. You want it? You can have it. So my Uncle Peter gets it. Well, Peter was, he was more of a train guy than an instrument guy. And he winds up trading it to and the banjo was not in good condition. And so he winds up trading it to my dad for a playable banjo. It was only a K, but it was at least playable. My dad did work on it and made it playable. So this was like one of the nicest banjos in the house growing up. So I always loved it. And then then about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, we decided to do the full restoration on it and replace the decomposing ebonized hardwood fretboard that was popular at the time, oh yeah, I didn't bring up that this banjo was made in 1903, and at the time there was a master inlay artist and pearl engraver, Celio Consalvi, was for Fairbanks, and this banjo has his work on it. So the Griffin peg head is particularly outstanding. Every time I look at that, I just feel I was so lucky to grow up being able to look at that kind of art. I have a few other banjos with his work on it, but definitely always a favorite. Typical construction for the era. It's a nice maple neck. The rim is maple with a full metal cladding on the outside. And at the time, instead of clawhammer playing or downstroke playing, fingerstyle was a lot more popular. So So I'd like to play a tune I learned from some Randolph County musicians. The Modern Surf Quartet was a band around here in the 90s, late 90s. It had Andy Fitzgibbon, Jimmy Triplett, and Yohei Shikano. They were a trio. And so the tune I learned from them that I'd like to play is fingerstyle is Surf Rider. Probably not ever played on this banjo till now, but oh, there goes another one. Let's
Playing
see.
more of that.
Yeah, banjos breed. Oh yeah, here we go. Where'd it go? There it is. Key chord.
Oh.
Another Cleveland oddity. This is a key chord, a tenor guitar is what they were advertised as. The inventor was Dean Solenberger, who owned the Simplex Piston Ring Company. So his company made advanced piston rings, as far as I can tell. It made advanced piston rings, including sponsoring Indy cars. My friend Michael Wright did a reasonable amount of research on things and found out what he could about the Keychord company. And what we can tell is the Dean Solenberger seemed to think that it was difficult to play a musical instrument by putting your fingers on the frets or on the strings in back of frets to make a sound. His idea was to just press a button to make a whole chord. So when I press a button, gamut of chords to play. And how it does that is underneath the cover plate, if I can get that off, underneath the cover plate, there are, when you press the button, it creates, there's like, I don't know, 10 or 15 sliding plates inside the neck of the guitar, and when you press the button, it causes these little fingers to press down on the strings. And it was a lot of work for no real benefit. I remember talking in the mid-'80s. There was an elderly old-time musician who would come to our stores to play music at our jam sessions. We had one of these for sale at Goose Acres, and John says, "Oh, I remember those back in 1930 when they came out. Never caught on." So, and it's true. Because one, if you have anything go wrong with one, who are you going to get to fix it? But the whole idea was to make easy music, or have an easy instrument to play, so you could sing along to it. So I'll demonstrate what you may have played back in 1930. Last night as I lay on my pillow, last night as I lay on my bed, I took my feet out of the window. Next morning my neighbors were dead. So bring back my neighbors to me. Bring back my neighbors to me. And it never caught on.
Something of a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, right.
This evening.
All right. What else? Check my list. I should have made it in a bigger font. Ah, yes. In collecting and accumulating musical instruments, one thing that I have noticed is banjo heads get drawn on. Anything from something really nice to just graffiti. A lot of frat houses would have a banjo player, and people would sign the heads. And well, my first love with banjo head art was Cecilia here. I found this in the south side of Cleveland at a house sale, and it was $15, and I thought, that's beautiful. I just love this portrait, so I buy it. And also at the house was about 100, not Slovenian, but Czech polka 78s, and they were taking offers on those, and on a lark I said $15. Well, they called me 2 days later, and I had to go back with my $15 and pick up 100 Czech polka 78s because the underbidder was $10. And I carried those around with me for a good 20 years before I found somebody that thought it would be fun to own them. But I think of those every time I look at Cecilia here. Other examples that I have with me. A lot of the banjo heads, they'll break, so I'll keep the vellum. The banjo heads, I'll back up just a little bit. Before mylar heads were invented for banjos in 1959, the only way you could have a banjo head was calf skin or goat skin. So you'd take a skin and you'd stretch it to fit the banjo. And vellum is just a great medium for art. So here's this is a real pretty line drawing that came from a kind of a big banjo. Most of the banjos that I run into are banjo ukes, but this was a full-size tenor banjo that came from. Definitely from the 20s, because that's when there was just a big banjo boom. Let's see. Oh, this one here was on one of my own banjos, and yeah, I like the artwork because it's a camel with 2 palm trees, but that's something I did at a party with a rubber stamp. But I've always kept it. I was always fond of that. Let's see. This is probably the only head that I have a little bit of provenance from. I remember that it was on a Lyon and Healy tenor banjo, and the woman who brought it in said that her father had drawn this, and so it was done by an African American artist. And you can see there's a banjo player over here, and it looks like, even though it was in the play area, it looks like a woman playing a tambourine or a hand drum over here with a lake or river scene and a volcano. Just, really interesting. And it is signed. And let's see what I can read. It says Gorman something Harris. And I can't read any more than that. But, just really, really a nice, nice art. Let's see, who else do I have here? Ah, yes. A place for striking, whatever that means. So, a couple under an umbrella with a big heart around them and plenty of musical notes. So, and it's signed by William Bussell. And maybe from 1919, so that's kind of cool. And this is a small one, so that was definitely on a banjo ukulele. This one's more graffiti, more of what I see mostly. There's a fraternity symbol here, and some initials and a few cartoons, and somebody's cigarette. Most curious, and that came from a Slingerland banjo ukulele. Let's see. And here's a pretty nice pose of a woman from the 20s. Another banjo ukulele, and it's got a few. It's got a 3-leaf clover and a diamond. Don't really know what those mean, but I've kept it. It's always been attractive to me. Maybe the nicest drawing that I have. Oh no, this one here. This one's cute. Like, what's going on behind that umbrella? I don't know. And then the nicest pen and ink drawing is this one here. A good friend from England wanted to do me a favor, and I said, well, if you ever find some banjo head art. And he definitely sent me one of the nicest drawings. Stan G is a musician in England, and visited a couple times, or once at least, and sent that to me as a thank you for the visit. And a couple of other banjos. I like this because it's cartoony. The fella in the canoe playing his banjo, and the canoe is named Mary. One of the cheapest banjo ukuleles made by the Globe Company, who never marked their instruments, but they made banjo ukes like this for anybody who wanted them. And then this one's probably, the artwork is probably later. It's looks like an oil painting because it's got a lot of texture to it. And the woman is leaning up against the palm tree, but the artist kind of made a mistake in the drawing of the bikini strap, and it looks like she's tied to the palm tree. It's just kind of a little artistic blunder, we'll say. But you know, just all things that come to me, and I like them, and I like to keep them around because they're just fun to look at. Man, hopefully I don't step on any more.
No, you won't knock them over at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then my latest acquisition is this this banjo from, I don't know, around 1900, I think. Mary, what was the year you looked up that the U.S. Liberty was around then? Okay. So from the front, it just looks like a pretty simple Buckby banjo. And then when you look at the back side, there is some of the most amazing wood carving I have ever had on a banjo. In it, you know, there's a lot of floral carving, and the words U.S. Liberty, or U.S. up here and then Liberty down here. And you know, we found out that was a sailing ship, and you know, was used in defense, I believe. And just super nice carving. I have one friend who suggested that it was probably a Bavarian wood carver who had nothing to do on the ship and carved the neck of this banjo. It's got a few other quirks, like late in its life, somebody put a decal of what looks like the Madonna, and the brackets are real typical of the time period. They're spread eagles, but in between each of the brackets is another decal that my assistant Andy said that looks like Canterbury Tales, because there's one fellow carrying a bindle of firewood, which, you know, you can enjoy if you ever get a chance to visit me and take a look at this banjo. I get real excited about this. I don't know if I'll ever be able to set it up to play because there's a few quirks with it, but it doesn't matter. It's a really important artwork, I think. And here, Carl.
Oh, it's mandolin.
It's mandolin time. So
it's all, that probably also means tuning mandolin time. Let's
yeah.
see how it goes. Ooh, very proud of you.
Both Carl and I play a lot of mandolin. This particular, or the series that we brought a mandolin, a mandola, and a mandocello, and they're the Gibson F4 series. So it has the scroll and 2 points, fancy peg head inlay. In this particular instrument, the tuners are inlaid with flowers and birds, but you know, that's something you'll have to look at, you know, handle the instrument and look at close. I bought this one when I was, I think, 19. You know, it was one of my early big purchases, and I've played it ever since then. So I'm what, 40 years about. And the thing I remember most was when the owner and I finally got a deal. He picked it up to hand it to me, but he forgot to latch the case, and the mandolin tumbled out on the floor and made a hell of a racket. Fortunately, nothing happened. But I'll let Carl play a solo mandolin piece so you can hear what Gibson F4 from 1918 sounds like. Yeah, show them the back.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful one-piece back, and it's got a, you know, the series of mandolins have a sunburst finish. So the sunburst finish refers to the light color on the inside going to darker around the edges. So both the front and the back, and even the sides on this instrument have this beautiful red sunburst finish, and you know, curly maple back and sides, and just stunning visually as well as acoustically. Let's get to the big stuff, because I also have a Gibson mandola, and the model on that one is an H4, and then also the same as you see it matches. It's a red sunburst finish with, well, flip it to the back. It's just the most gorgeous curly maple I've ever had on any mandolin I've owned. Though this one, this mandocello comes close. Now I don't have a pick.
Well, I got you.
You got me covered. Okay.
Indeed.
So, and the acquisition of this one was kind of an adventure. A regular customer comes into Goose Acres, and he says, "Hey, are you interested in buying a Gibson K4 mandocello?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay, well, do you got $300? I'm going, "Yeah." "Okay, well, get your $300 and drive me to a pawn shop." So we drive to this pawn shop where he had hawked this mandocello, a Martin mandolin, and a Gibson ES-175 with PAF pickups, if I remember correctly. Yes. And he had hawked them, and to get them out of hawk, it was going to cost $300. And he knew that he couldn't abandon them there because they were worth significantly more if he sold them outright. So we go there. I paid $300. We get them back, and then we make a deal. And sadly, there was 2 cracks in the top, and so I couldn't pay him. You know, he was upset that I really couldn't pay him what he had paid for it. But I knew I had a lot of work ahead of me. And then I've owned this instrument for a long time, and I think it was about 3 years ago, I knew exactly what I had to do to make it play right. So we had to, or to get it back into good playing condition. To do that, we had to remove the back and do the crack work, and then also X-brace the inside. And it's a really complicated, tough job. And Jesse Milnes and I did all the work on this, and I'm just thrilled to have this instrument playing after owning it for 30 years. And I love the low. And I will do a quick tuning check.
I guess also part of what differentiates a mandolin from a mandola and a mandocello is the mandola is tuned a fifth down from a mandolin. So a mandolin is E, A, D, G, and this mandola is A, D, G, C. And the mandocello is tuned an octave down from the mandola.
Yeah, from the
so
mandola.
Yeah, I'll hit my C.
And these instruments were manufactured by the Gibson Company. They created their own market by having teachers promote mandolin orchestras, and those teachers could make extra money by selling mandolins and mandocellos and mandolas.
Gibson even put out their own book about how to start a mandolin orchestra,
Yeah.
which is just full of like bombastic, self-assured Gibson advertisement, essentially. A college professor of mine managed to find a copy of it at a library in Florida and have it sent up, and it was a hilarious read.
Yeah, they were rather wordy, but they were also the best instruments at the time, and
Still pretty.
and they're still pretty dang good. So we'll play Billy in the Low Ground.
Okay. Ring forever.
Quiet down, quiet down.
Still going.
Yeah, it's fun to have these around. All right. Oh yeah. Here. Let's see. You're gonna play something.
That'll work.
You get to play the Fairbanks. Somehow I've eked out a living in the musical instrument industry. I've made instruments, and since I moved to Elkins, West Virginia in 1989, I've done pretty much focused on repairs and restorations. But this is the first instrument that I ever built. It's a lap dulcimer. When I was about 14, my mom had a dulcimer, and I had a great time playing it, so I needed my own. And in order to, dulcimers were really hard to find back then. You know, it was something really different. And and even as a teenager, I did not have money to go buy one. So I found a company that offered kits, and I bought a dulcimer kit. And when my parents' friends saw it, they said, "Hey, that's pretty cool. Could you build me one?" And the next thing I knew, I was in business making dulcimers, and of course progressed to banjos and other instruments, and the restorations. But it's always fun to pull this out now and then. Let's do the quick tuning check. It's really worth it. Oh, turn the tuner on, Bob. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's good.
I should have left well enough alone. You did your Surfrider outro really about ruined this segment. I'm glad I checked.
Surf music is hard on a banjo. Yeah, still plays after 45 years.
We've got some stuff still kicking after.
Yeah. And let's see.
Grant administration or something.
Yeah, last was, oh yeah.
This
yes, I'll take
stately creature.
Take the banjo.
Boy, there's a lot to zoom in on this one. Where to begin?
Well, we start with sunburst.
As explained priorly.
As explained priorly with that. So this is a 1935 Martin C1 archtop guitar. They're really great old-time guitars. Kevin Enoch uses one that was found in the trash in Cleveland, Ohio, that just sounds great, you know, with the music that he plays. This particular one came from Akron, Ohio, and the previous owner had maybe scratched it a little or something, and he thought, okay, who can I get to refinish this guitar? And he takes it to a motorcycle shop and asks, hey, you guys refinish motorcycles all the time, could you refinish a guitar? And they said, yeah, we can do that. And he said, okay, make it a sunburst. And one of my great joys in owning this guitar is you know, having it in its case and handing the case to somebody and saying, hey, you want to see a 1935 Martin Sunburst guitar? And they get all excited, and then they open the case and they're very confused. Still, it's a really good guitar. I would never change anything about it. You know, it's a quirky twist of fate that it's gonna be.
Oh, let's get a look at the back too.
Oh yeah, that's the real the bursty part of the Sunburst.
Basically,
It's some of the airbrushed finest.
some good pinstriping. I don't know if you can get the peppermint swirls in there, but that's a thing. It's just.
Yeah.
Like if they had Sturgis back in the 70s, it'd look right in place.
That's the guitar. And then the accompaniment instrument with that, if I can get the, I got it. Okay. Is you know, maybe the most normal instrument of this this group of things. This is the fiddle that I play the most. It's a made probably around 1890 or so in Marknenkirchen, Germany. Not a particularly valuable instrument, but after a morning of tromping around in the mud at a flea market and not finding anything, my dad and I go to a porch sale in Ashtabula, Ohio, and this was on the porch. $15. Okay, I'll take it. And I didn't know that it was going to be a lifetime companion of fiddleness. Yeah, here we go. Here we go again.
I'm so sorry, folks.
Yeah. The humidity is so different in our house than here in Graceland.
Temperature too gives this.
But thank goodness for electronic tuners, so we can do it fairly quick. Here's one of my favorite fiddle tunes from Henry Reed, Billy in the Low Land. That's the last of the instruments we brought to share. I think Augusta Director Seth Young might have a question or two from the audience or something.
I don't have a question, but I do have a request.
Tune the damn instrument.
We've been doing it all evening.
First of all, there aren't really many questions. Of course, if they still have a question, you can put them in the chat on Facebook or on Zoom. Everyone is gushing absolutely about how cool these instruments are. At the top of the show, we had a problem with a mic that was dying in real time. And so the volume got a little bit low. And one of the coolest instruments, in my opinion, is one that I don't want to shortchange here. And I was wondering if I could request a replaying of an instrument that we did at the top of the show.
Okay.
And you should have seen, it was like a Scooby-Doo montage. Eric running around this empty mansion looking for AA batteries a new mic into.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get the story behind it, but it's this instrument back here. It's this square shaped.
Oh, sure.
It's very interesting looking
Yeah,
instrument
here,
back here. That was one of the ones
hand me the
that
sunburst.
didn't quite get its just due, in my opinion.
All right. Again, this particular guitar is marked Old Craftsman. That was a brand name that the Spiegel company used for their fretted instruments. My mother found this at a guitar show in the 90s, and she used it pretty regularly till she gave it to me. It was the Spiegel company's diamond anniversary, so it was made in 1940, and so they'd been in business for 50 years as a catalog company. And this was their special guitar for their diamond anniversary, and they called it the guitar of the future. And I can't say that it really paid off.
Anything that's comfortable about a guitar is not featured on the
Yeah, on
guitar of
that
the
guitar.
future.
Yeah,
It's even got some
bad,
bumpers and
badass bumpers,
Yeah.
and
like
yeah, the interesting sound holes rather than F holes. They're just like segments, circle segments.
and just where the whole digging, and it makes you appreciate why a guitar. I'm not trying to just roast this guitar to the internet because I think it's great, but it builds perspective. Like there's a reason a guitar is shaped like a guitar.
Yeah.
This kind of jams in your thigh, and then also with your arm. It just
Yeah,
couldn't be a less
yeah.
opportune
Yeah,
place.
even though Bo Diddley liked his kind of rectangle.
Maybe I'm just
guitar.
not cool enough to play it, but
yeah.
it's.
Do you want to do a solo thing with that?
I mean, we could. I don't. We could give the. I don't know if they also.
No, I
Don't need to play
think
half
we made
size
her
fiddle
point.
violin
We made
anymore.
her point at the cigar box.
Yeah.
Something you could play a lead to. Something G.
Something in G. Like Big Soda.
Yeah.
taking the time and showing us this wonderful collection.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for inviting us, Seth. We're happy to be part of the Augusta, and thank you, Eric, for running all the electronic gizmo things and finding the batteries in the mansion.
Yeah. Bob has a shop, Smakula Fretted Instruments. He does sell instruments. You can find on his website. He has an inventory of instruments for sale. A lot of them are very, very fine instruments. He also has instruments for somebody that I bought my first fiddle from Bob. It was a very great beginning fiddle that he had set up, and he made it sound much better than if I had just bought it from a warehouse type shop. He specializes in instrument repair. That's his true hallmark, and I just remember you telling me how much more difficult instrument repair is than instrument building.
That's for sure.
Because you have to fix mistakes instead of just starting from a blank slate.
Fresh wood.
Yeah. So if you do have any instrument repair needs, or if you go to SmakulaFrettedInstruments.com.
Smakula.com.
Smakula.com.
Yeah.
Okay, that I peruse it. You can see your inventory on there, and you can get a phone number to call if you do happen to have a repair or questions about an instrument, right?
Yeah, and actually I want to bring up the reason Carl was able to join me today is he's got a series of lap steel gigs with John Lilly doing some Hank Williams stuff at the Purple Fiddle in Thomas.
The Purple Fiddle in Thomas on Friday.
Thursday, I think.
You're right, it is Thursday. And then at Potomac State College in Kaiser, West Virginia on Friday, and at the Pocahontas.
Marlinton.
Yes, the Marlinton Opry House or Pocahontas County Opry House. I'm not for certain which.
Pocahontas
They
County.
call it.
Yeah, in Marlinton on Saturday night. You get to see me play an instrument I learned how to play about a month ago, and find out with me if it goes well.
Well, wonderful, fellas. Hey, thank you guys so much for being here today. So this session was sponsored by the National Endowment for the Arts, the West Virginia Department of Arts, Culture, and History, the West Virginia Humanities Council, and right here where we're standing, Davis and Elkins College. We thank you so very much for joining us. You can check out our website, augustaartsandculture.org. We have some lessons that are available for free on there. You can check out our wonderful archive. Augusta has an archive that spans over 100 years that we've begun to digitize and put up for free on our website. And then our summer programming, even though we're just now getting into the snap of cold, it's right around the corner for us. It'll start July 10th here at Davis and Elkins College with Cajun and Creole, Classic Country and Swing Week. The next week after that will be Bluegrass and Vocal. The week following that will be Blues and Old Time. And you can find out a lot more information about that on our website, augustaartsandculture.org. Thank you guys so very much for joining us today. Thank you too once again for an incredible project and a great presentation. Emily told me that Flora wanted to stay up past her bedtime to watch it. So the 5-year-old demographic focus group is testing very strong with these instruments. So thank you guys so very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Seth.